So down to 1.6 seconds, 13 laps remaining, and we've got this situation. Coulthard is 3/10 faster in section 1. Schumacher 3/10 faster in section 2, and then Coulthard again 3/10 faster in section 3. If he can keep that up, he's going to be looking very closely at the gearbox of the Scarlet Ferrari.
Yes, which again prompts me to say that catching is one thing, getting past is another. I'm sure Michael Schumacher will know exactly what the situation is, and if David Coulthard gets on his gearbox, although he's demonstrated in the past that he's more than capable of fighting his way past the German, it's going to be mighty, mighty hard to do in this race, with Schumacher looking for his 9th World Championship victory in this season. And look at David Coulthard now, and 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, Wurz, Verstappen, Zonta and Salo. Now, Michael Schumacher under pressure, no doubt about it. Lap 45, 11 laps to go. David Coulthard can see the opportunity of a 4th win of the year for him, to add to the ones that he already has, and the 4 that Mika Hakkinen has got to make it 9 during the year. And if he was not feeling well before this race, the adrenaline has certainly overcome all. What do you reckon his chances are?
I think his chances of keeping, putting Michael under pressure are very, very strong, but I can't really see where he's going to overtake him other than in that turn 2, which is a barging match. And well, he'll get in the slipstream of that Ferrari. We'll have a look at some straight line speeds and see where they are relatively. And we're looking at Coulthard does have the faster car in a straight line, as he did have through free practice. So I do think if David can get near the gearbox, he may be able to have a stab up into the inside, into say the last turn as well, as he closes that gap down to 0.8.
Lap 46 out of 56. Ferrari looking mighty good for the Constructors' Championship, but not necessarily mighty good for a victory. Michael Schumacher in the red Ferrari on the left leads David Coulthard, who has now got the gap down to under 1 second. Michael Schumacher has got to keep all his famous cool, make sure he gets the line right, the braking points right, accelerate away, give David Coulthard no opportunity to get past, because Coulthard, notably in France this year, has demonstrated that he's more than capable of getting past the triple world champion.
Uninterrupted coverage then to the end of this Malaysian Grand Prix. Coulthard with the slightly faster car, both in terms of lap time and in terms of straight line speed by 2 or 3 kilometers per hour. Now, unfortunately, he's in the dirty air zone of that Ferrari, and turn 2 is where he passed Michael Schumacher last year. They're going through turn 2 right now. Clearly nowhere near close enough to even think about it, but he's got 10 laps left to be able to get up on the gearbox, and I think if he can get a good run out of turn 14 down the final straight into the last corner of 15, then I think Coulthard may just have enough kilometers per hour and a good enough car under braking to have a stab at the lead of this Grand Prix.
As you look at Mika Hakkinen in 4th position, who has not closed at all on Rubens Barrichello. There is the Brazilian 3rd place in the Ferrari. The gap between them, 19.6 seconds. So Rubens has got the message, and he's continuing to hold off Mika Hakkinen, and Villeneuve is now lapping it in the BAR to within 1/10 of a second at exactly the same time.
Yeah, so Villeneuve then down in 5th place. As you say, Hakkinen appears to have completely lost momentum after that stop. He's now on the same fuel load as everybody else. But clearly, all cars will have just enough fuel to get them to the end of the race. There will be no further scheduled refueling stops, as we see the Minardi of Matt Saccani from 15th place in the pits. He is the last runner. Ralf Schumacher recently retired out of when he was 16th. So now 7 retirements then in this Grand Prix, and Zonta in the boonies.
Yeah, no points for him. Not that he was likely to. He was in 9th position. But Villeneuve is still holding the fort for BAR. Wurtz, the top Benetton, is in 7th position, and Fisichella is down in 12th position.
Nasty place for that car, clearly an engine failure there for Zonta, no mistake from him, but a nasty place to stop and have a truck into the gravel trap. They're coming in there just under 190 miles an hour with a totally unsatisfactory runoff area there, but Coulthard still homing in on Michael Schumacher. No sign they'll think of the safety car. They will clearly recover that car of Zonta's under double waved yellow flags indicating marshals in the danger zone, and they must slow down. Louise.
We're used to seeing Williams running at the front of the field. Obviously, that's not been the case today. Jensen out earlier on, and as you mentioned, Ralf Schumacher's just retired as well, having spent much of the race running round at the back of the field. It was a problem with his BMW engine. I have to say that's a fairly rare problem with the BMW engine, because they've made a fantastic return to Formula One on the whole. The team will still finish 3rd in the World Championship, and I think at the end of the day, that's something they can feel justly proud about.
Well, Michael Schumacher and David Coulthard are closing now on Giancarlo Fisichella in 12th position, who's battling with Johnny Herbert, and there could be a traffic problem which could change the positions of these 2 lead cars. Michael Schumacher can see it coming, but of course David Coulthard on the left there can equally see it coming, and they'll be planning ahead to try to work out how best to get past the cars in front without the positions changing from Michael Schumacher's point of view. Lap 49 out of 56. Gap 0.6 of a second. Well, it's visual, look at it.
Yeah, Coulthard with the better car under braking, no doubt about it. 4K's faster down the straight, better under braking. He's losing in the middle sector of this lap through 7, 8 and 9 turns, but I think if he gets a sniff, he needs a bit of a help from back markers or something to get a sniff at Michael down one of these straights. He's got the better car when he gets there to the end into those tight corners.
Yeah, Michael knows that as well as David does, and Michael is just as determined to win this race as the Scotsman is, because Michael Schumacher made it very, very clear that unless very unusual circumstances obtained in this event, he was going for his 9th win of the year. He's looking good at the present moment. He's on lap 49. There are the comparative times, and you can see that there's virtually nothing in it at all. They're both lapping now considerably faster than Rubens Barrichello, who is continuing to be caught by Mika Hakkinen, who's got the gap down to 18 seconds. But Hakkinen, even if he closes at a second a lap, which he's doing at the present moment, is not going to be able to get close enough to Barrichello before the end of the race to have a chance of taking 3rd position away from the Ferrari. But now, look, there is the traffic situation, and you see Johnny Herbert and Fisichella being caught by Schumacher there, David Coulthard there, as they come out of the Penang Straight into the Kuala Lumpur Straight.
Yes, that bad stop of Johnny Herbert's cost him 10, 11 seconds and at least 2 places. So Irvine in the sister Jaguar still in a point-scoring position up there in 6th. Johnny unfortunately down in 10th with that appalling stop when they could not get the fuel nozzle out of the car, as Coulthard, as usual, edges closer in 1 and 2. Then you get a yo-yo effect. Obviously, Michael will always be on the throttle. Couple of cars, and who's that off?
That's a big one.
That's a Jaguar. That's a Jaguar off into the barrier, and it looked...
well, the steering wheel is out, so it's Johnny Herbert. Johnny Herbert, and he's thrown the steering wheel out. That is definitely the Englishman. What an awful way to finish his last Grand Prix in Formula One. But thank heavens he looks perfectly all right. Very bad damage to the car. Here's what happened as Johnny Herbert... Look.
Oh, that's a rare suspension failure. And Johnny, absolutely nothing he can do is hit the brake pedal, and the rear wishbones have given way and just pitched him into the tyre barrier. And a really nasty incident there for Johnny Herbert. There's going to be a lot of carbon fibre debris on the racetrack.
And thank heavens you can see that Johnny, the most popular man in Formula One, without a doubt, seems to be perfectly okay. Has he got a bit of a problem with his leg? Yes, he has, because they're carrying him off the car. We're on lap 50 now, back looking at the battle for the lead temporarily, as Johnny is carried off. The adrenaline got him out of the car. Obviously, I don't know whether it's a sprain or a break, but
And Johnny's ankles are bad enough, aren't they, after
Yes.
that terrible crash he had in F3000. As Coulthard now closer than ever. Is he close enough to get a good tow from that Ferrari down into one? It didn't look it as they came past the commentary box. Will he have a stab down the inside? He is very close when he gets there, but not close enough. There is a bit of traffic ahead of him.
Yeah, and it's Fisichella. Now, Fisichella is on his own. Johnny Herbert, of course, was behind him, has now disappeared. Mika Salo is about 7 seconds up the road. So hopefully Fisichella is keeping an eye on his mirrors, and in which case he will see this approaching. Ferrari, McLaren, lap 51, 5 laps to go at the end of this one.
Wouldn't surprise me at all to see one of these runners this afternoon pick up a puncture from the debris of Johnny Herbert's incident there. That rear suspension failed very early on into the braking zone. There will be a lot of shards of carbon fibre, and I think they're still looking at Johnny. I don't think he's in serious danger, but clearly has hurt his left leg in some way. What a terrible end to his Grand Prix career. That's not fair.
It's his 163rd Grand Prix, and he more than deserved to get out of it in the points in good. But Fisichella is lapping some 2.3 seconds slower than the two cars bearing down on him, and any moment now he's got...
Yeah, sorry, I was saying Coulthard lost an edge there somewhere in this lap, and it's a crucial lap because it's the one where I believe they're going to clear that back marker, and the one where Coulthard needs to be closest to Michael Schumacher. Will Fisichella yield going into the last corner? No, he will not, and that gives Coulthard the chance to reclose that gap and be there when Michael Schumacher has to...
Yes, now he moves over. Yeah, Fisichella sees them, courteously moves over, and the battle now continues. We're on lap 52 in this 56 lap race. The two leaders, Michael Schumacher going for his 9th win of the year, David Coulthard going for his 4th win of the year, have got a clear track in front of them because Mika Salo was some 8 seconds in 9th position ahead of Fisichella, and they are lapping. The time difference between Salo and Michael Schumacher is about 1.5 seconds. So it looks as though, with luck, they're going to have a clear track until the end of the race to resolve this battle. Remember, it was a fantastic battle in the closing stages of the Japanese Grand Prix between Michael Schumacher and Mika Hakkinen. Now it's Michael Schumacher against David Coulthard, Mika Hakkinen's teammate.
Tough call in the Jaguar pit. They got Irvine up there in a 6th place, a point scoring position. They've seen quite clearly a structural failure on Johnny Herbert's car. Did he have a knock earlier on? There was a big drama on lap 1 of the Grand Prix, where a lot of cars got together that could have given some damage to Johnny Herbert's car. If I was the Jaguar team boss, I think maybe he's got more information. I guess they'll have to leave Irvine out there.
It's difficult, you know, just looking at television pictures to see what the gap is between them. It looks to me as though Michael Schumacher has got the race under control at the present moment. He's just coming up to complete his 52nd lap, and the gap between them was 0.8 of a second over the painted grid on the tarmac. Now there is Salo. Maybe I was wrong. They are going to catch Mika Salo as Fisichella in the background recedes into the distance. And yes, the gap has gone up. It's gone up from 0.6 of a second to 1 second, so that's practically doubled it. And Michael Schumacher still leads on lap 53 with Barrichello out on his own. He's still being caught by Mika Hakkinen, but at the rate of about half a second a lap, and he's still 14 seconds ahead of the second McLaren. Race order: Schumacher and Coulthard that you're looking at. Barrichello 14 seconds behind them. Hakkinen 15 seconds behind Barrichello. Villeneuve still in the points. 2 World Championship points, which would equal the Benetton score, and it would therefore be decided on places who'd won the Constructors' Championship and who is 4th in the Constructors' Championship, and I think off the top of my head it would be to Benetton's advantage. Eddie Irvine still, fingers crossed, for that 1 World Championship point, which would really lift the morale at Jaguar to give them something to look forward to over a long, hard winter now under the new management of Bobby Rahal from America, who is going to be in charge of the Jaguar team. And there is Jacques Villeneuve alone on the track. He's 15 seconds behind Mika Hakkinen. He's 7 seconds ahead of Eddie Irvine, whose car you just saw briefly flash into view in the background, as the leaders are very close to coming through to completing their 53rd lap. No change in the temperature. You heard from Martin earlier on that there was a 25% possibility of rain. Well, thank heavens that has not happened. Jacques Villeneuve, then world champion 1997, who's invested so much of his time, effort, and I'm sure his personal considerable fortune in the BAR team, is at last seeing some return.
I suspect he's added to his personal fortune driving for BAR, but he certainly invested a lot of time and energy, as you say, and Matt Sakani drops out of a current 13th place, so unlucky for him, and only a dozen runners then in this race, which is proving to be a bit of a car breaker.
Retirements in order: Pedro de la Rosa, Pedro Diniz, Nick Heidfeld, Heinz Harald Frentzen. There is Salo being followed by Schumacher, and Coulthard coming up to lap him. Continuing with the retirements: Frentzen, Jenson Button, Genet, Ralf Schumacher and Ricardo Zonta. So both the Williams BMW of the last race of the year, as Schumacher now sets about deciding where he's going to get past Mika Salo, who will certainly see the German and the Ferrari in his mirrors and move over.
Michael Schumacher's flat out working away, hacksawing away on the wheel. Coulthard just said the fastest first sector of any lap this afternoon. He is not giving up on this chase in the dying laps of this Malaysian Grand Prix. Coulthard still very much going for it. Had a couple of laps where he appeared to be just falling away slightly, now re-attacking, and the gap down to 0.6 of a second. He took a half a second out of Michael on that previous lap.
54 laps completed, 2 to go, 55 and 56. Yes, certainly David Coulthard took a second out of Michael Schumacher, but to get past the German and the Ferrari when the performance of their cars is virtually identical is going to be an absolutely Herculean task. Barrichello continuing to run in clear air, and clear air behind him in third position. The prospect for Ferrari: 14 World Championship points, 11 more than they need to clinch the Constructors' Championship, as Michael Schumacher keeping cool, trying to in this heat and humidity. But as I said earlier on, he's the fittest man in the race. He said before it began that he expected and hoped that the humidity and the heat would affect him less than virtually all the other drivers, and he's only got about 4.5 miles to go now before the checkered flag and his 9th win of the year. But there's many a slip twixt cup and lip, and I have seen Grand Prix lost at the very last corner. Who'll ever remember, who'll ever forget Monaco, when Jack Brabham had victory stolen from him by Jochen Rindt a long time ago, but the circumstances were not dissimilar.
They've also been lost in a courtroom some weeks after the Grand Prix as well, but hopefully that won't be the case this afternoon. A classic duel then between Michael Schumacher and David Coulthard, and Schumacher then seems to have the upper hand when it matters as he heads into the final lap.
Final lap 56 in Malaysia. Now, David Coulthard will never give up, of that you can be absolutely sure. There is a contingent of people from his hometown, Twynham in Scotland, here to watch this race. They could hardly have hoped to watch a better one from their point of view, except, of course, seeing David Coulthard somehow scramble past Michael Schumacher to win the Malaysian Grand Prix. It is looking less and less likely, because Schumacher's just got a few corners to go now between himself and that historic victory, which is surely going to be his after an absolutely magnificent year for Ferrari. It will be 9 wins for Schumacher, 1 win for Barrichello, 10 wins in all. The Drivers' World Championship for the 3rd time for Schumacher. The Constructors' World Championship again for Ferrari, and he is almost home.
And they're still in the 1:39s at the end of this race. It's last year's record lap. They've been doing that all through the afternoon. Absolutely incredible pace in this Grand Prix, as the new Bridgestone tyres are working extremely well. It's lifted the pace, and these drivers certainly have maybe the World Championship was over for the drivers, Murray, but they have not given an inch this afternoon.
The Ferrari flags, as everywhere, are waving as Michael Schumacher enters the last corner of the last lap to win the last Grand Prix of the year 2000 in glorious style for himself and Ferrari. Schumacher wins in Malaysia as he won in Japan and America and Italy. He has won 4 races on the trot now, to add to the other 5 races that he had previously won this year. In the background you see Rubens Barrichello making it a glorious 1st and 3rd for Maranello, for Ferrari, to give them the World Constructors' Championship without a shadow of a doubt, with 11 points clear on top of the 13 advantage that they already had. Mika Hakkinen, there he is in 4th position. A superb drive. Remember that time penalty that he had. And Jacques Villeneuve is going to come through and finish in 5th position. 2 World Championship points. It's going to be nip and tuck as to whether Benetton or BAR take that crucial 4th place in the Constructors' Championship. And Eddie Irvine will be in 6th position to score again for Jaguar. Lap 28 out of 56, and Mika Hakkinen has fought his way up to Jacques Villeneuve, who is 6th in this race. And remember, Mika Hakkinen was way down in 14th position. He stopped once, but that was a penalty stop. He's still got to come in for his first fuel and tyre stop, but he's almost back in the points, lapping almost exactly to 1/10 of a second at the same time as the BAR in front of him. In the race order on lap 28, as you watch Hakkinen and Villeneuve, is Schumacher leading Coulthard by just over 5 seconds. Barrichello is 3rd, 9 seconds behind Schumacher. Johnny Herbert in the Jaguar, a magnificent 4th position, but yet to stop. Jos Verstappen in the Arrows is now up into 5th place, and you're looking at this battle between Hakkinen there in 7th place, Villeneuve in 6th position ahead of him. You've just seen the gap on the caption, and to complete the top 10, it's Wurtz 8th, Irvine 9th in the 2nd Jaguar, and Fisichella up to 10th.
Yeah, Johnny Herbert, I think, using the same strategy he had last year, fill it up with gas and go as long as you can. He's now got down into the 1:40s, just a few tenths of a second off the leaders, and a solid 4th place there for Johnny Herbert. Verstappen also on a 1-stopper in 5th place, just 2.1 seconds behind him. And once again, that long-legged first stint working well for Herbert, and this time Verstappen. I think Coulthard having to pit early and Hakkinen with his stop-go penalty allowed Ferrari the comfort of changing their tactics back on to a 2-stopper.
Well, what a wonderful thing. It's early days yet, but what a wonderful thing it would be for Johnny Herbert and for Jaguar if he could finish in the points. But as Martin has so rightly pointed out, it's into the pits. As I say, it comes Johnny Herbert from 4th position, just 2 seconds ahead of Jos Verstappen. Now, there is the Arrows. Behind Jos Verstappen, you can see Jacques Villeneuve with Mika Hakkinen 6th, 7th, tucked up behind Villeneuve.
The downside of a 1-stopper like Johnny is on is a very long stop, 10, 11 seconds while they get all that fuel on board. We're not able to see Johnny's pit stop at the moment, but for sure he'll be stationary a long time while they get that gas in. And Johnny Herbert then making the 1-stopper work well. Look, here he is now. Look, that seemed a very slow stop. A long time getting away there for Johnny Herbert. Don't know what the problem was. 19.7 seconds. That has cost him dearly.
Coming down towards us, you can see the BAR and Mika Hakkinen. That is Villeneuve. in the BAR, Hakkinen in the McLaren. And while Mika Hakkinen was scything his way through the field earlier on, thanks to superior horsepower, he's not finding it so easy with the toughest man in Grand Prix racing, Jacques Villeneuve, ahead of him.
Yes, the Arrows pit stop then, the first and only one of the afternoon, hopefully for Jos Verstappen from 4th place, and that's about right, 10 and a bit seconds. Good stop there from the Orange Arrows team, and Verstappen, be interesting to see where he pops out in the field. Certainly got a nice clear track ahead of him. Hakkinen then is going to go the furthest of just about everybody. Fisichella still hasn't come in the pits. Hakkinen, he would have been in good shape, Murray, had he not have had that jump start penalty.
Yeah,
but
the
car was absolutely full of fuel.
Yes, look at this though. The world champion of 1997 for Williams, Canada's Jacques Villeneuve, battling the world champion of 1998 and 99, Mika Hakkinen from Finland in the McLaren. And they're certainly making a go of it. And Mika Hakkinen is going to have to work very, very hard, either to get past Jacques Villeneuve or to harry the man enough to make a mistake. I can't see Jacques Villeneuve doing that. He's fought, oh, through goes, or does he? They're absolutely side by side. Mika Hakkinen makes a tremendous attack. Jacques Villeneuve moves across on him, and it's coming down to the very, very slow left-hander at the end of the lap. Second gear, 65 miles an hour. Villeneuve should do it. He's got the inside line. He's holding it.
But he's gone wide. He locked his inside left, and Villeneuve outbraked himself. Busy watching Hakkinen, and really, Hakkinen frightened his way past Villeneuve, and you don't do that too easily to Jacques Villeneuve. Forced him offline and forced him into a mistake, and a great move there for Hakkinen that could well see him up to 4th place in this race.
Yeah, wake up on the left there. This is a terrific race going on, because Alexander Wurz is now closing on Jacques Villeneuve as a result of the Canadian running wide. Wurz in 6th position. This is a replay of the battle between Hakkinen and Villeneuve, where you see Mika Hakkinen retake that position as Jacques Villeneuve runs wide. No, you don't, because there is Hakkinen. He's now stretching the lead. He's got a clear track in front of him.